Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this very, very important motion that has been brought to the House by Honorable Madenge, MP Nyeri Town. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is good to note that this motion is very timely because it's speaking about the ban of media houses from running lottery and prize money competition. Mr. Speaker, it is worth noting that the media houses of today, they have lost their primary objective. I'm saying this, Mr. Speaker, because in the late 80s, 70s, we knew that if it's lunch hour, we would run to the media stations to hear the latest news, what is happening across the country. And thereafter, we would hear the radio stations singing patriotic. Every few sentences, there is an interlude of betting, something being brought that people are told, now put 50 shillings and you get 100,000 or whatever amount of money. And in the background, you hear somebody screaming, I have gotten my 100,000. So even if Mama Mboga is preparing to prepare dinner for her children, and she has 100 shillings in her phone, what she'll turn back and do, it is to take the 50 shillings, remove 50, bet, expecting the 100,000, which may never forthcome, and at the end of it all, the children sleep hungry. Mr. Speaker, according to the Communication Authority of Kenya, this country has stations that are mostly ethical. So these messages are communicated in the language that even the Mama Mboga, even the person who does not understand any other language will understand. Mr. Speaker, and instead of these stations talking objectively of things that are happening in the country, they have become a recipe for making our families poorer. Families have become more poorer because they want to get rich quickly and they are enticed to easy money. Mr. Speaker, sir, this has become an economic activity of easy making money from some unscrupulous individuals in this country. What I would say, Mr. Speaker, it is absolutely immoral, it is ungodly, it is not right for somebody to make money out of the vulnerable, the most vulnerable members of the society. Mr. Speaker, sir, these media houses have gone even further, and far from what we are thinking, that it is only the young generation which is affected by this, it is not true. People are taking even their pensions and they end up going to this betting and gambling game. Mr. Speaker, a survey done by the Central Bank and by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, it indicates that the elderly people bet 49 times a week. On average, this is much higher than the 41.4 of all the other age groups. And what this tells us, Mr. Speaker, these lotteries and prize money are conducted mostly by the television and radio stations. And vernacular stations, as I had indicated earlier, are the most notorious on this. And this is why, Mr. Speaker, most of the people who even take their pension after falling prey and victims of this, they end up paupers and they go to an early grave. Mr. Speaker, I want to state that this country is contending with a raft of issues that are affecting our youth very, very negatively. We are talking of drugs, we are talking of beer, we are talking of very many other negative things that our youth have been engaged in. And these vices are so deeply entrenched in our society that they are not going to spare any of us. School-going children, we have had, there are a lot of dropouts. We have had, there is rampant absenteeism in our schools. We know too well that all these accumulate to negative effects in our society. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to support this motion, and I wish to say, ask Honorable Madenge, let us escalate it at another level so that we don't just talk here, because it is evident that in the year 2021, the Betting and Licensing Board was given a green light to stop this vice, but it seems that they don't have the powers to do that. Mr. Speaker, I support and say these negative social trends in our society must stop. It is us, this House, that has the powers to bring this vice to an end. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Parliament for Busia County, the Honorable Catherine Omanya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would love to oppose this motion, because any institution that is legally registered here, if there's anything they are doing illegal, then there can be a way of regulating. I look at our football clubs that lack anybody to hold them, and I find that these betting institutions are the ones that are funding them. Otherwise, we would be killing our talented young men and women who are in these various games out there. Secondly, anything that everybody with common sense has, before they engage in it, they should be mature enough and disciplined enough to go into it. I don't think anybody puts a gun on anyone to go and gamble. Gambling is a choice. It's not a must. It's not a priority of anybody. So it's a choice. If anyone chooses to gamble and maybe one day wake up to be a millionaire, then be it. The thing here is discipline. And also the Bible says it is wrong to be covetous. So if somebody wants to be a millionaire within a second and tries their way out and doesn't get it there, you don't have to point at the person who brought the game. It is the person who went to play the game. So I think there are individuals in this country that are being targeted, because I've had one of our honorable member mention Royal Media and MediaMax. And I thought this thing was a motion that does not have any ill motives behind it. But immediately he mentioned, then I realized that it's not actually the gambling. It's not the betting. It is some personalities in this country that are being targeted. And it's bad manners for anyone to be in power and want to oppress or finish the other, because what you set up might be a trap for you yourself. So we should be very careful. Betting companies pay their taxes. If we must regulate, maybe we can up it a little so that they pay higher, because we see the participants are many across even Africa or the world, and maybe what they give back is what we should be looking into, the auditing. We should be looking into how much do they give back to the country. But we all, as leaders, have a role into looking after our kids, what they are getting into. Many times, I do not sleep until I go through the history of my phone to monitor what my baby or my nephews or nieces have been looking into. So it is just a way of people being very lazy. What will your child be doing betting, and you are there? If they are trying those things, just stop them. So let us not throw punches and escape from our responsibilities as parents and start saying it is this gambling, it is that. And also, I think in the regulations, they would add and say, the way they say it to people who drink, that you engage in it at your own risk or something like that. It's a little warning to it. But do not kill any institutions that are here, that are helping our sports, our games. They are helping in one way or another in charitable activities. We see them helping out. And that is all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Phyllis Berto, the MP for Moiben.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to add my voice on this motion of gambling from Honorable Madenge. Mr. Speaker, gambling also considered as pathological gambling is a situation, is not a bad idea, but the problem comes in when it becomes addictive. And when it becomes an addiction, it is just like any other, it's just like drugs, it's just like alcohol, which the society is trying to fight as per now. For example, the President of Kenya and the Deputy President are leading a team to sensitize, with NACADA, are working out a way of stopping or the use of drugs and the use of illicit brews, which have become rampant in Kenya and which have ruined our young generation, that if we are not careful, we will not have a generation in future as Kenya. That is where the problem is. So if this gambling is not censored, it becomes problematic. Once upon a time, when I used to teach at the university, you would walk to a classroom and find empty lecture rooms because some students are busy gambling. Most of them wasted away the fee they were given by their parents. Most of them sold everything, sold their college athlete possessions for the sake of gambling. We saw parents coming to the graduation, hoping that their kids were supposed to be in the graduation list, but they have dropped out. They have not been able to pay fees. They have never been to classes because they were gambling. When gambling becomes an addiction, that is where the problem comes about. We have had cases of Fulisa. Young people, you find them having more than 20 SIM cards because they are getting money, getting small loans from Fulisa to gamble. Isn't that a problem? So my take is, this gambling has to be regulated before it escalates to become an addiction, and more so to young people. When they start participating in this game, they lose concentration. They don't, others drop out of school. Others become petty thieves because they want to get little money. We've heard of stories of young people taking money from their parents' phones, and many other stories which are not very good for our society. Mr. Speaker, I would say that if this business is regulated, it is not enough to tax them, because taxation is going to, if we tax, it's like we are legitimizing the business anyway. We have to regulate them so that we censor and make sure those people who participate, they give an age gap, for example, of those who are supposed to participate in the gambling. And we bring clear regulations on how the game should be done. Otherwise, I'm also a member of parliament who has a rural constituency and urban. And you'll find that in the urban side of my constituency, there are so many gambling centers. People are reaping from very young people. We've had relationships breaking because the money, which is supposed to be for families, have been diverted to do other things like gambling. So what my take is, this motion is a very good motion. We should look at it critically and ensure we only delete what is not relevant, what is destructive, but we leave the business. We give the we press the regulator to get a bit serious and not just regulate anybody, not just give a license anyone because they want to be in business, because they want to make money. Just like those the organizations which are regulating these, those who regulate the supply of alcohol and drugs in our society, we'll find that some county governments are very fast in giving businesses licenses, regardless of what kind of alcohol or what kind of alcohol they are selling. Some just get the license and they go ahead to do illicit brews. And that eventually people get addicted and becomes problematic. So I think we should lump all of them and work closely to see which one is a good business and which one is not. If measures are put in place, I think everybody will be happy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Irene Mayaka, nominated MP.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the Honorable Dan for bringing this motion. And I just want to give a different angle of what we need to look at in this particular motion. Because, Honorable Speaker, anything in this world that has an illicit tag to it becomes automatically sweet for people to want to go for it. Be it prostitution, be it alcohol, be it betting, anything that has that tag. So what we need to do, in essence, is, for as long as this
Did you say, what did you say is illicit? Constitution, or what did I hear you say?
There's a P in front. I said prostitution.
Oh,
Honorable
prostitution.
Speaker. Yes.
Okay.
So what I want the approach I want us to take is that in formulating these regulations, we have to have a give and take approach in it. And the reason why I say that, and just to add to what my sister has said, is that some of these betting companies have really supported our sports. Yeah? Just the other day, Harambee Starlets were in training for a whole month, and they could not even go and attend a friendly against Albania because they did not have sufficient funds. But if you look at some of the betting companies, like for example, Mozart supports Homeboys FC, Betika supports Police FC and AFC, SportPesa supports Moranga and Gor Mahia. We have sports companies and clubs that are actually suffering right now, and we have to raise funds on a weekly basis, like Shabana from back at home, who are doing extremely well, but they don't have anyone to support because the government doesn't have enough sufficient funds to support our sports. So what we also need to do in our regulations is to look at a way that ensures that some of these betting companies that are actually supporting our sports, that are gaining revenue from it and supporting our sports, how are we also supporting them just to encourage them as well? Because regulation is good, yes, but at the same time, it has to be a regulation that also seeks to find out how are we also giving back. Because when you create laws in this country, they have to be laws that also encourage investment and revenue earning. Number two, the media companies. Because a lot of media companies, when you look at it right now, Honorable Speaker, be it FM stations or TV stations, they've gone into that space. Why? Because a lot of people are no longer doing advertisements on media. People don't have money. We are living in extremely difficult times. So for media houses, they found that this is one way that they can actually use to raise revenue for themselves. So what these regulations need to do is to ensure, because I am certain that every media company in this country has a legal office attached to it, is to ensure that the legal fraternities and departments in these radio stations and TV stations are making sure that the laws that we have in place are properly put in place to ensure that they also protect the consumers of this. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the Sports Amendment Bill of 2018, and in particular Section 12(1)(2) of A and B, it actually states very clearly that proceeds of any sports lottery taxes levied on betting companies should ideally go to the sports fund, so that then the sports fund can assist to make sure that the different teams that we have in this country are supported. The question we should be asking ourselves is this really happening? Has KRA given audit records to the sports committee to ensure that this actually happens? And I saw the sports chair here, Mr. Chair, and I really wanted him to listen to this, because this is another angle that we should be looking at. So when we're reading both acts, the Lottery and Betting Act and the Sports Act, we need to make sure that it covers ground sufficiently so that it helps this country. Mr. Speaker, one of the games that earned this, the sports Gor Mahia the highest source of revenue was a game that they played against Everton in May of 2019. And that particular game was a full stadium in Kasarani. I remember I was in attendance. That particular game, through SportsPesa, who did extreme marketing online, on social media, on radio, on TV, was full capacity. And full capacity because it ensured that people paid for the game, people put a bet to either support Everton or Gor Mahia, and because of that, the team was able to actually pay allowances for its players and coaches, and they were able to actually serve the sports fraternity. So what I want us to do is, let's not only look at the bad side of gambling, because for as much as we can sit here all day and say that we want people to stop gambling, we want people to stop putting money in gambling, there's nothing we can do about it. People will still go out there and gamble. People will still go out there and put money into these betting companies. What we need to do is make sure, are we milking enough from these different companies to ensure that the government also has an extra source of revenue to support some of these facilities that they cannot support. Right now in this country, Honorable Speaker, we don't even have medical insurance for our sporting men and women. We have sporting men and women out there who have retired prematurely because they're not able to get proper medical facility. So let's not come out and injure the people who are at least trying their best to assist in whichever way that they can to make sure that this continues, even as we go out to seek solutions. So, Honorable Speaker, I just want to encourage my colleague Dan, Honorable Dan from Nyeri, and tell him that as we are looking at the regulations that we want to take care of, let's make sure that we are also protecting our people from the same. And personally, because one of the reasons I said when I came into this parliament was that I will always look out for sports funds and sports players, because sports bring people together. So Honorable Dan, together with the committee that is going to work on this, let's look at other ways. Let's even go into public participation and see how Wananchi can also give us ideas on how we can enhance this and make it better for our people. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I arise to support the motion that gambling should be regulated in this country. Mr. Speaker, if we look at the vices vis-a-vis the advantages of gambling in this country, you will realize that the effect of the gambling on the negative are so immense. And this is the reason as to why we should make sure that gambling or betting in this country is regulated in a manner that it is not so disadvantageous to the young men and women who are mostly vulnerable due to the rampant effect of gambling. Today, Mr. Speaker, young families are unbreaking due to mistrust related to gambling, whereby either the wife or the husband is immensely indulged in gambling. So many Kenyans, particularly the young ones, are greatly impoverished due to gambling. The insatiable lust, the insatiable need for money have made so many young people to think that by doing betting, they will be millionaires in a fortnight. This is the wrong notion. This is the wrong thinking that has made people to suffer due to gambling. The mostly affected sector is the education sector, Mr. Speaker. Today, most of the students from the university are dropping out of school because they are deeply indulged in gambling. And this is the high time this owner of house should get ways and measures to make sure that we contain betting in this country for the posterity of our young generation. So many vulnerable school-going kids, due to the negative publicity that is done by the media houses, the very sweet ones, very enticing ones, make them think that if you indulge in betting, by a day or so, or by a month, you will be a millionaire in this country. Just a few who has benefited from this, as it has been alluded, you will hear very sweet ones, music, to make sure that the listeners are made to move to this kind of business, which is not rewarding at all, as many people may think. So what we are saying is that one is also a kind of drug that is killing, that is eating to our society that needs to be very productive. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I'm calling the mover on Duncan to go ahead and have it as a bill so that we can discuss it and see the mechanisms, the best way possible we can make sure that we suppress this growing kind of a habit that might eat onto our very, very useful sector of our society if not clearly averted. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I am saying the narrative that's being peddled by these houses to make sure that this kind of business derives for their benefit is not helping the young Kenyans and even the people who are greatly indulged in it. Today, even the football that we talk about, you hear fans talking about Goma here, talking about others, and mainly the international players. Whenever you hear them making noise, whenever they are saying we are supporting Arsenal, we are supporting Manchester, there is that element of gambling. And this is the reason as to why we are saying, as a country, we must get the mechanism and ways to regulate this growing kind of menace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, there will be 55 minutes remaining before debate of this motion concludes. I'm grateful there is a lot of interest in the motion. I saw Honorable Dan Wanyama, the chair in charge of sports. I don't know why he stepped out. But the next time we'll sit over this matter, we'll have that time to contribute. And I want to thank the members for being very patient. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, at the time being 1:00 p.m., this House stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, the 12th day of April 2023 at 2:30 p.m.